in the police department, everyone sees all these shows, right? Remember, everyone on defund police. Should police be defunded? So what's going on, everybody? So today's guest we have on the show is none other than Larry Chavez, the owner of Chavez Painting, an AZ up-and-comer. Man, I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
So Larry, we met each other, I don't know, maybe a few months ago. And we were looking at this big project, and you were out there, you know, you're painting some of the suites or the apartments or whatever they are, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. I just seen your truck, and then I met you, and I was like, "There's something special about this guy," and that's when I hit you up. I was like, "Hey, come on the show. Let's get to know each other." And so, thank you for coming. You know,
thank you for having me.
And I hope we can be a blessing to you and your business. You know,
thank you.
And so let's get into it. So, tell us a little bit about your life. You know, I know a little bit. 35. You got a blended family, right?
Yes.
How's the blended family like? How does that dynamics look?
It's all about communication and just having a good flow, having a good partner. She's amazing. We have very similar backgrounds, and so when it comes to establishing a family with her, it's been a breeze, man.
That's cool. I think a good partner is like it's needed, right? Mm-hmm. They can make or break you.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's fun, like her kid and then our kids, and we just have a good time, and they're all around the same age, so
that's cool.
It helps. Her daughter's 7, my daughter, she's going to turn 8 next month.
Oh wow.
And so they're little besties, and
that is kind of cool.
They have a blast together. My son, he's 10, and he's more like hanging out with me, and he's really into football right now, which I am soaking all that in right now. He loves football, love watching football, and just following the players and all that stuff.
Yeah, I like that. So Larry, all right, so I got something that you went to Maryville High School.
Yeah.
So
is that a problem?
No. I went to Maryville High School.
Oh, nice. Go Panthers, brother.
But I only went for a month.
Oh, okay. What happened?
I got kicked out.
Oh, man.
My freshman year.
Okay.
So what junior high did you go to?
So I'm actually originally from LA.
You are, and you moved here at what age?
When I was 14.
Okay. So you were done with junior high?
Junior high was finished in Mark Twain Middle School out in California, in Venice, California. Yeah. And my parents decided to establish themselves here in Phoenix. I started my freshman year at Maryville. Brand new kid. Didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
With my little Dodger hat,
LA Dodgers,
that used to be a big issue, though.
Did you have a bald head back then, too?
No, I actually had a full set of hair.
Okay.
That didn't happen until like later on in life.
Oh, okay. I know a lot of the LA guys would shave their heads bald.
Right. Yeah, it's just great memories. Being a Dodger fan, my mom used to clean one of the coaches' houses out in Beverly Hills, and my mom, single income. At that point, my parents worked together for like about 9 years, and so during that time, my mom provided to us what she could. And one of the big things was growing up for me was I became a baseball fan because my mom would take us to these baseball games out in old Dodger Stadium, the new one, and. I'm no longer a Dodger fan, though. No. Okay. 3 years ago, I decided to I gave away all my Dodger memorabilia to someone that is a Dodger fan.
You're a Serpentine fan?
Serpientes.
Yeah.
Just for some political things that I saw that were going on that go against my religious beliefs as well. Okay. And so I decided to, go for the home team. So this is my home. I love Arizona. I love everything about Arizona. It's on my shirt. It's on my logo. Yeah. And it's on my company trucks, and I just want to make sure that we're loud and proud to be Arizonans, and, we support the local teams.
I like that because I'm wearing this Phoenix shirt.
Nice.
So listen, I went to New York, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and my wife and myself. And so we're buying stuff for other people, all this stuff. And she's like, you're not buying nothing for that? No, I don't want nothing out. It's like our 4th or 5th time there. I get to Sky Harbor, bro, back from New York. Mm-hmm. We land, and I'm like, I want that Phoenix shirt.
It's a nice sweater.
And so I didn't buy anything. I don't ever wear it I don't wear stuff like that. And I was like, I want that Phoenix shirt because I was born and raised here.
Nice.
So let's go back to like your early days in LA, man. Like what area did you grow up at? what was the dynamics like of, I mean, I grew up in a broken home and stuff. I was kind of giving up, but like, what's the dynamics look like? You know, you're with the single mom, you know, the young lady, are you getting in trouble? Or you got good grades? How does that look?
Yeah. So, my parents split when I was 5.
Oh, okay.
And he actually ended up moving here to Phoenix first. And during that time, my sister and I grew up in LA, in Culver City, pretty much. For a time there, we were in South Central LA. It was kind of rough, man. It was rough for a while there. You know, like you have the wrong color in the wrong neighborhood, you're going to get asked. So, unfortunately for me, my school was all blue, so you had to wear a blue sweatshirt in the winter and you know, your blue pants, your blue Dickies, and you know, you're rolling around in a blue sweater, blue Dickies, some Chucks. You know, some Bloods are gonna pull up and say, "Hey, man, what neighborhood you from?"
Not
you
even
know?
knowing you're going. That's your school. Yeah,
And you know, I had some unfortunate experience where I got chased down the alleys, you know, from these guys, and I took a whooping, you know, and you know, it all built character. You know, I got into a few fights, and you know, it wasn't all like glorious or anything like that. But my mom put us in, you know, taekwondo to get our confidence up.
Nice.
And you know, there's some bullies around, and you know, that built my confidence. And then, sure enough, later on, she did a great job in building that. And then I was defending myself, you know, and, you know, one time I remember getting off the bus and they told me they were going to jump me when I would get off the bus. And so, you know, they got a nice little circle and I got in a fight with one. And then I fought another. I thought I was Jackie Chan, man.
Oh, so you already had some lessons in?
Yeah, I had fought like 2 guys and, you know, we were dominating. And because my mom came to see, you know, pick me up. She got off from work early. She came to pick me up, and my bus driver, who was really cool, you know, he played hip hop and everything. Like, so we thought he was the coolest guy with cuss words and everything uncensored.
Okay.
And so he's like, no, he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job. And so he kind of allowed.
So if you were getting beat up, he'd have stopped it. He's like, he's winning. He's gonna let him win.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I ran from the school bus to my babysitter's house several times because it was just kind of like one of those things like. People wanted, but then I started, you know, obviously putting up my guard and doing they left me alone. Yeah. But yeah, growing up in LA was great. I have great memories with my mom. Yeah, she was single income for about 9 years there. And then my parents decided to get together. And
they got back together.
Yeah, got back together.
Oh, wow.
My dad's actually a pastor of a local church here in Surprise.
Nice. What church is that, by the way?
Iglesia. It's the Apostolic Church of Faith of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
The term in Spanish is Iglesia Apostólica Fe en Cristo Jesús. So when we came here, my dad's side of the family is all part of that community, that church community, and I got raised in that community.
So so your mom was in LA, and your dad already moved to Phoenix.
Moved to Phoenix when they split, and then they reunited. God brought them back together. Wow! And they're amazing.
They're still together.
They're still together. That's cool. They're pastors at a church, and you know, they're actually hosting they host like a lot of marriage counseling stuff too. And so they're really contributing to the community, and all my family has that background.
That's amazing. So, like, tell me about like the feeling of that, you know, because you're in a single household, and then you're like, your mom's like, hey, we're getting back together. I'm getting back together with your dad. Like, how'd you feel at that point?
That was exciting. It was very exciting for us, my sister and I. So they, hey, we're getting more of dad now, you know, and get raised by my father. And so that was an amazing experience to go get the family together. And like, he bought a home out here, and they bought their first house here in Phoenix together. And it was just exciting. We went from a little apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, where my sister and my mom and I slept in the same room. I had my own little bed, and my mom and my sister sleep on another bed. It was really cool, man. We used to have beautiful memories, even though it was a small space. You know what? We were so tight. We were best friends, and we would pray every night together.
Oh, that's cool.
And so for me, no matter what the tribulation was or whatever it was, it might have been, but my mom did a great job at making sure that we were well taken care of, and that she was establishing, you know, that good morals and values that I carry on today. So for us, it was a great experience. You know, I had, you know, there were some moments where I missed my dad a lot, you know, where he was supposed to come, you know, visit me, and,
a birthday,
and he wouldn't show up. He wouldn't show up. And so, but we battled through all that stuff. There was a lot of healing that went through, and my dad and I are super tight. One of the things that is great is that I absolutely love when I went through some stuff, my dad, I told him, like, Dad, listen, you might have not been there for my entire childhood, but you were here present in my adulthood when I've needed you the most.
That's right.
And so I thank you, Dad, and I love you for that. And so my dad and I are pretty tight. We talk almost on the phone every day.
That's cool. I mean, I don't got the same exact story, but I met my dad when I was like about 25.
Okay.
And it was the same thing. Like, we became really close. He passed away 4 years ago, but so for I would say 13 years or something like that, whatever it was, 13, 14 years, or 12 or 13, we were really close. The same thing. And I was like, I held no grudge because I knew what I was getting from him. It was a better version of him anyways.
There you go.
You know what I mean? And it was like, and I was a better version of myself when I was ready for it. So it's like perfect timing. God brings that together.
Yes. Amen.
God knows when the right time and the right place for whatever we need.
That's right.
What I mean? So you guys move here. You're in Maryville, and I like that you're in Maryville because, I mean, I lived in I grew up in Maryville. Where'd you live at?
West Side Kids, 55th Avenue in Glen Rosa.
Okay.
So that's Indian School in 59th Ave area, approximately.
Yeah. You were north of Indian School.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you were
between Thomas and Indian School.
Glen Rosa. Mm-hmm. Was it between Thomas and Indian School? Mm-hmm. Oh, south of Indian School. Yeah, 55th, you said?
Yep.
So you were by like Osborne?
Yep, exactly.
By Borman?
Yeah, so Osborne Middle School?
Osborne Middle School.
No, I'm sorry, not Osborne. Atkins Middle School. Yeah, it's down the street from there. So it's, that neighborhood where the super is and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's on 51st and Indian School.
So we're just
I went to Borman.
Yep.
Borman was on about 55th and Osborne.
Yep.
I went to that junior high was Borman.
Oh, okay.
But
it's where all the troubled kids go to.
Some of them, yeah. And Maryville.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. I don't know if that's true, but
is that what you heard?
Yeah. If you got kicked out from, isn't there a Boardman High School?
No, it was Maryville, and then there was like other private high schools, like Okay. Yeah, when you got kicked out of those, you went to like Ombudsman and Phoenix or West Phoenix, and there was a couple of them.
Yep.
I ended up going to Phoenix Job Corps.
Okay.
Yeah, after I think I was about 16 and a half when I was getting charged with all these stupid little charges.
Okay.
And then, the judge was like, hey, I was going to get sentenced to Adobe Mountain. It's right here on Pinnacle Peak in I-17.
Okay.
And then, but my dad, which was my stepdad, he's like, hey, can we put him in Phoenix Job Corps for 1 year? If he doesn't finish, then you can put him in the juvenile for the remainder until I was 18. So I went to Phoenix Job Corps and took up carpentry. That's kind of like the same way you kind of came up in painting. I learned how to build real early.
Oh, nice.
So you're at Maryville. You're going to school. Did you graduate?
Yes. Sorry, man. I got a little bit.
You're good. Just don't get me sick, bro.
No. I hope not.
So you go to Maryville. You graduate. I mean, how does that look like? You're in high school. Were you a good kid? Were you like straight A's or?
Not straight A's. I got by. The only thing that kept me like a lot in line was in football. And then also I joined the Phoenix Police Explorers since I was 13 and a half. That's when I joined the program. So, and then church, so I was actually a bass player at my church. So I was very
praise and worship team.
Yes. So my mom kept us very busy.
That's key.
With a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you had to go home because there was something to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was always something to do, chores, and then go do an activity. So
were you playing on the Maryville football team?
I only did freshman year.
Okay.
And that's it. That was the highlight of my career. But I focused more in the police side. The program kept me very busy with community service and just learning a lot about competitions and all that stuff. So it was a great experience because I knew early on I wanted to be a police officer.
Yeah. So you graduate from Maryville, and did you go to high school? I mean, college?
Yes, I went to Phoenix College. I did a year there in business management.
Yeah.
So that was my major, and because my dad said you're going to go be a businessman, so I did that, and really was not my cup of tea. And then I decided to be changed my major when I went to Glendale Community College, and I went to major in
Fire science?
Criminal justice.
Criminal justice?
So I did another year there, and then I got hired by the sheriff's office as a detention officer. So pretty much finished. I didn't finish college. I did some college, which did end up helping me in my career as a detention officer, and then eventually police officer.
So you were a DO. You wore like the brown suits.
Mm-hmm.
What year was that?
The sheriff's office, 2008, 2009, all the way to 2013. That's when I became a police officer. Went to the academy and all that stuff.
So how was that? So how the experience from being a detention officer? I mean, how was that experience? So was Joe Arpaio still in charge?
Yeah.
I mean, I went to jail several times before that time.
Right.
And jail sucks. I never went to prison, thank God, which is probably worse. But jail sucks for sure.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like just a bunch of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not really animals. I don't want to say animals, but there's some stupid people. There's some smart people.
Yep.
And then you got like some bad officers. Then you got some good officers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean when I say animals. Like just everything's in there, and you don't know how to respond. Like you think you're responding one way to one person, but you got to change it up to a different person, right?
Yeah. No, the thing is though, just it's all about mutual respect.
Yeah.
And always inside, internally between inmates and officers, that has to be respect, right?
Yeah.
So you approach everything with a respectful way, a demeanor, it's going to work. You know, yeah, sometimes some guys don't listen that way.
Knuckleheads.
You know, and you gotta check them, you know, and you gotta talk to them basically, you know.
Yeah. So did you have any crazy altercations in the jail systems?
I don't think so. I mean, just normal stuff, you know, like day to day. It's been a long time before, you know, when I had that career. Just people high on drugs coming in, you know, getting intaked, and there's some nasty stuff that I saw, and you know, some crazy suicidal people, you know, just flooding, you know, their cells. And
I was just gonna ask that. I remember people would flood their cells. And I'm like, why? And I was only in jail for 6 months, the longest time. And I'm like, why is everyone flooding their? And then they would all do it at the same time and stuff, and like when you're in lockdown and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like you want to be in all this water, and you get shut down.
Yeah.
That you can't do nothing, and then you're cleaning it all up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It does nothing.
Doesn't make no sense.
I was young too. I was like, you guys are idiots. So you transitioned from detention officer to the Phoenix Police Academy.
So no, I didn't go to the Phoenix.
Oh, you didn't go to Phoenix? Where'd you go?
No, so I went to Tucson.
Tucson.
So I started my career with Gila River Police Department, so the Indian community. I don't know if you're familiar with that community down south. Yeah. There you're certified as a post-certified officer, and then, you know, so they either send you to the Phoenix Regional Police Academy, or they send you to Tucson, whatever's available. So the next academy that was available, they send me down to Tucson.
Oh, so you went to Tucson.
Yeah. So and then that was a live-in academy, so I had to be there for 4 nights out of the week. So Sunday night, you know, we would drive into Tucson, check in, and then we check out on Thursday. And it was a 4-10 schedule, and did academy there for 4 months, and then I got certified, and I worked on the Gila River Indian community for 3 years.
So you don't have to be native to work on a...
No, it does help you if you are, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what led you to the Gila River community? Was that just the opening, or?
There was opening. They gave me an opportunity. I had 2 friends that were already there. Really close friends from back in the detention days. Yeah. And so I went ahead and tried out for them, and they selected me to give me an opportunity to become a police officer.
That's cool. Heck yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, I lateraled over to Avondale PD. That's where I did the rest of my career. That's where you did
Avondale. I don't know how I got Phoenix. My notes don't even say Phoenix.
No, you're good.
So you end up at Avondale PD. So how, you know, so now you're a cop, your dreams like come true. What did it feel like? You know, like you're like, I'm a cop, you know, was it happiness? Was it like, okay, this is all right? Was it?
I had a lot of pride in it. I thought it was a great experience. You know, I was making a difference. I felt like, you know, saved a couple lives, you know, and it felt great to contribute back to the community, especially when you went from a role of like, all right, I'm taking this report or this call, and then you went into, all right, let's use this platform for some good. You know, how can we use it? And so then establishing, you know, some community outreach and, you know, bridging that that bridge between the community and police. And that was the type of officer I was, and I wanted to make sure that the community felt comfortable with their police department.
Yeah.
So that was the most satisfying part for me. You know, I didn't like seeing too much of the death or stuff. You know,
The bad
homicides.
things,
You know, it's just sad cases. You know, against children and all those things. You know, did take a toll on you, but you know, you had to manage it through it and just talk about it and process it and move on.
Yeah,
That's all you can do is just move on.
So you got all the community things going on at the Avondale Police Department. Did you move to Avondale too, or were you still like live in Phoenix area or something?
I'm a West Valley guy still. I live in Goodyear actually. That's my home base.
Yeah.
But just next city over.
Yeah. So, is there in the police department, everyone sees all these shows, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think my wife watches Chicago PD.
I haven't seen it, but
there's all these shows, right? There's Law and Order or SVU. There's like everything. What stigmas that the people put out there, say on social media on these shows that are not true, or maybe true? Like remember everyone on defund police. Mm-hmm. Should police be defunded?
No, they should be funded. Right?
Yes. I don't know. Hey, let's get rid of the police and just everyone kill each other.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's the stupidest thing ever.
There has to be some sort of order, You can't just let everybody run wild, everybody's going to kill each other.
Yeah.
There should be more resources because as a policeman, you're going to wear, or policewoman, you're going to wear different hats. One call, you're a counselor. One call, you're patching somebody up from bullet holes, that a local gangbanger, put in them. And then another call, you're just, handling a report, trying to find something that, somebody got drunk and left their iPhone somewhere, Or
like a lover's quarrel.
Yeah. So, or you're, saving somebody from an overdose. It's just different hats that you wear.
Yeah.
And so what happens is like you're spread too thin, you're bound to make some mistakes. So it's better to have more resources available to you as a police officer than not to have them. So
what's crazy is I remember I was watching a police officer do an interview and he said the same thing, and I think the video went viral or something, but exactly what he said is we're spread too thin. They take the funding away, and where you need 2 cops, there's only 1 or something like that, and like you said, and then you're trying to work faster on that.
Yep.
In that scene or whatever that is, and then now you're starting to miss things, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So we definitely can't defund the police.
No.
Dude, I can't believe people ever said that. They were doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is now, like, because you don't hear about those stories right now, like in Seattle, all these states.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. So you're the biggest thing is you were able to make a difference.
Oh yeah.
And then like the kids that want to be cops, like you were that kid.
Yeah, actually, I helped another officer like establish the Explore program at that department because they didn't have one. And so, I told you I was an explorer with Phoenix PD, that youth program, and I helped them establish that in Avondale. And so now it's up and running. It's still going since I left. So
nice.
They're doing great. My wife actually got to contribute to that as well because she's an officer. She's a sergeant for Avondale.
Oh, she's still in it.
Yeah.
I knew you were saying, like, I knew it was like she had to be a police officer.
Yeah, so she's amazing, man. Like, she's my biggest supporter, the biggest one that has the biggest vision for myself. So I feel like she's awesome, man. So she got to work with that for a while and supervise it as well. So she's amazing. But yeah, I got to establish that program from the beginning and, set a good foundation with everybody that we started that program. And I inputted what I experienced as a teenager into the program as well. So you met your wife at the precinct, the same one you guys worked out of? Yeah. No. It's just Avondale is like very small. So it's like I had known of her, but back in the day, like when I was a detention officer, we just like, I knew of her, and then I came to the department and then I established a relationship with her, maybe like 2 years after I went over to the department. And that's how it worked out. And the rest is history. The rest is history, yeah. And so she's still there. She's a sergeant, you said? Mm-hmm. And now, so you were in the police department for how long? So total communicative, it was 9 years. 9 years. Yeah, police department. That's pretty good, though. I mean, you give 9 years of your life, to serve and protect. Yep.
So like that's kudos, dude.
So thank you. I appreciate that. So one of the things, it was very hard to disconnect from it because I made it so much part of my life from a very early on age. You know, that this is what I want to do, and I finally accomplished it. And so for me to detach from it, it was very hard, and I was very scary feeling to say, you know what, this is not the direction I need to go.
Yeah.
And something inside of me was telling me you need to leave, but you know, you have that stable income every 2 weeks, you get a paycheck.
You get
know,
the benefits, everything.
Yeah. And I think anybody like wanting to start their own thing is going to experience that. It's like that battle internally, mentally, say, hey, you know what? I have my secured paycheck every 2 weeks. I provide with my family. And to just believe in yourself is kind of hard at the beginning, you know? And so, yeah, it was very hard to detach. But something, you know, circumstances pushed me out too.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Everything had to happen the way it happened.
Yeah.
In order for me to be where I'm at now in my life.
God pushed you in the direction.
Oh yeah. That man, God is good, man.
Yeah.
God is so good. Because I believe that, you know, we might have plans in our life and visions and goals and stuff like that. But if God is not in between that and he's mediating that and making sure that we have him as that guide, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to hit a wall. And that's it. So it's just a matter of having faith. You know, I grew up with faith like we talked about, and just understanding that, you know, he has our direction and we're envisioned that he wants us to go and where we're going to serve better, you know, and we're going to be better off. And I can say so far, you know, God has blessed us a lot. And I believe that everything had to happen the way it happened and how it should have happened. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, yeah. So you leave the department. You're like, hey, I'm done. I'm retiring. You retire?
I didn't retire. I flat out quit, man.
You're just done. Like,
I'm done. I put 2 weeks notice, and I'm like, all right, that's it. We're done.
And then, so what is that? Does that cut all your benefits off and stuff like that?
Yeah, I still have some of my retirement there. So I mean, not completely, but
so you'll get a small stipend when you're like 65 or 70 or whatever it is.
Yeah, when I decide to buy it out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you just leave it there. Just leave it there.
I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, yeah, just leave it there. And then so you leave the department. You're like, and like, at what point did you figure out I have an itch for painting? Like, what led you to painting?
Yeah, so my dad was is still a painting contractor in the Valley, and he's been a painter since, I don't know, when he came to the U.S. when he was 14. So that's all he's done is painting. So he has provided for our family really well, you know, doing painting. And, you know, I rode with my dad in his paint truck. You know, I used to go to job sites with him, you know, in the summers, and anytime that he could take me with him, I'd go, you know, check out these painting jobs, and he put me to work, you know. And so when I was a teenager, aside from, you know, these extracurricular activities that I had going on, my dad would, you know, say, hey, you want a car? Here's a car, but you're going to have to pay for your own gas. You're going to have to pay for your own insurance. You know, you want clothes? Go, you know, you're going to have to work for it. So one of the foundations my dad said is like, hey, listen, when anything that you want in life, you're going to have to work for it. You know, nothing's going to be given to you. You know, you have to work for it. And my dad was very instrumental in that aspect. So I went to go work with my dad, you know, on my days off. Weekends, I was painting, you know. So I actually grew a passion for it. I love it. I love painting. I think it's the easiest remodel you can do, right? If you do it right.
I don't know. But I mean, like listen, you can screw up painting really quick.
You can, if you don't follow the process right.
Most people screw it up really quick.
Yeah, different surfaces, different types of preparation work that you have to do. So, you know, these are all things that I learned along the way. And then what's crazy, Chris, is when I was a police officer, everybody knew I knew how to paint. So partners and stuff, and you know, sergeants, and like they're like, hey, you know, can you come paint my house? So I do a little side gig, on the weekend, and it was great, man.
So you were already kind of in that role.
Yes.
You know?
So it was like kind of like one of those things. Like when I impressed my wife, she got a letter from the HOA and said, I don't know if I impressed her. I'm just talking here, but
I think you did.
She got.
She'll let you know after she watches this.
Yeah. So she got a letter from the HOA that she needed to paint her house, and it was like, hey, I can paint your house. I got you. So I'm like,
hold on, that was before you were married?
Huh?
Was that before?
Yeah, when we were dating.
Oh, she's like, hey, they're kind of making me paint my house as like purple now or something.
So they needed, you know, paint jobs. So I was like, all right, well, I can paint it for you. I had no idea how to spray a house.
Did you like her at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to impress her.
Yeah.
And then, So I called my dad, hey, how do I do it?
Oh, so you were like interior stuff and
yeah, I never like knew like I knew like I have had some jobs at exterior with my dad.
Yeah.
But me running the show and doing it by myself and doing all the work myself was
what do I mask off first? Should I paint the trim first?
Yes.
Should I, body first? Whatever. Yeah.
So I knew the concepts, but I never knew how to use a rig. So the rig I didn't know. So my dad let me borrow a rig and phone calls, FaceTime, Dad, what do I do next? What paint do I buy? So because everything was usually always at the site with my dad, But interior, yes, that's what I mastered a little bit more than exterior. And I think I impressed her. I mean, we're married now. And
so you went and painted her house?
I painted her house.
Did you charge her or you did it for free?
I did it for free, man.
Oh, there it is.
I put the paint and everything. Yeah. So it worked out, man. So it was funny though, like I'm a painting contractor now. We haven't finished painting the inside of our house.
That's usually like it. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. So you start Chavez painting. Man, that's so cool because like you integrate your name, right? Mm-hmm. You integrate what you do. I think all along you thought you wanted to be a police officer.
I never imagined that I was going to own my business, honestly. What was crazy is when I left law enforcement, I started this job with this marketing agency in downtown Phoenix. I had a little corporate job for about 8 months.
Okay.
And in that corporate job, I learned a lot about marketing and, community relationships with stakeholders and all that stuff. I don't know if you know, but they're developing that light rail system in South Phoenix from downtown all the way down to past Baseline.
Yep.
And then the Metro Center extension that you're about to open. Well, one of my brother-in-laws, he's a head engineer for that project for where the light rail is.
Okay.
And he kind of got me, hey, they're hiring there, and so I got the connection there through his brother, and it was cool because I didn't know any of this field, like how to market yourself, branding and all that stuff. So they knew about that stuff, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get with one of these guys, and let's come up with a logo. I couldn't do it, man. I could not be in an office. Like 9 to 5, sit in traffic, going to work, hating having to drive to work in traffic for 50 minutes.
Yeah. I
hated it, but it was instrumental because I got to learn about branding and marketing. And
you got to see something different.
So I got to see something that I didn't like, and some things that I did.
Yeah.
And, I started like passing out this business card, I was like, I'm going to start studying for my contractor's license, And so I got all that set up. And then sure enough, we launched it on social media. Friends and family were very supportive, and hey, I know a painter. So we just started kind of started the branding, establishing ourselves on social media, and that's what got us up and coming.
Yeah, and so that's like about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, a year and a half ago. So back in August is when I started. August 2022. That's when we started this process of, letting the public know, hey, we're a painting company, and going from there.
And so you chose the Arizona flag. And then like the red, white, and blue kind of like cop colors, America colors, like everything all in one.
Yeah. So this is kind of like obviously my name. I'm proud of our last name. All my tios, everybody they're all painters, and they're great painters.
Really?
Yes.
So that was that you're like your dad's brothers?
My dad's brothers. So my dad's the oldest out of 8 brothers.
Okay.
And then they have 2 sisters, but all the brothers are in the painting industry. And so I've always admired my uncles. They're amazing, and they're actually the ones that helped me in the beginning, when I needed large projects done. I gave my Tio Juan, hey, Tio, I need a couple workers. So either some of my uncles or some of his workers would, come over and help me like on a project, 2-3 days, and then we knock it out. And that's how I started.
And so they all are like, they're all kind of got their own thing going.
Yeah. So all my uncles work together. For my uncle, they have their own thing going with my Tio Juan, who I just mentioned. And for another business partner that they have, and who's actually been my dad's mentor, and now has become my mentor as a painting contractor as well.
Okay.
We do a lot of work for him too. So we do some sub work for him.
Yeah.
It's great. And so they have their own thing going over there, all the uncles, and my dad has his own thing going, and then I have my own.
What's the name of your dad's? Does he have a name in corporation?
Yeah, Chavez Brothers Painting. When he started his company, it was all the brothers working together.
Oh. Okay.
And then everybody started doing their own thing, which is
they gotta make a little more money. They're like, I gotta
exactly.
Sorry, bro, I gotta keep moving.
And sometimes I'll say this, like working with family is not the best. It's tough. I started with a couple family members, and
they think you owe them the same amount as you're getting.
Yeah, exactly. It's just some misunderstandings that I learned through the way. Is like, okay, maybe some were my flaws, maybe some were there, but at the end of the day, it's not beneficial. I have had such a better time now that I don't have family involved as much. My uncles, yes, I love my uncles.
Hey, they can still be your family. That's why.
Yes, exactly.
Because once you start fighting, it's like they're not coming over no more. There's no more Christmas. There's no more new, whatever it is. You know what I mean? And I think like for you as you're starting is whatever you do, set those boundaries up front, set those standards. That way, whoever it is, hey, this is what I expect. This is what you're getting. If we have to, walk away from this, then we'll shake hands and we'll still continue our relationship,
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Setting that boundary up front. But it's tough when you hire some family. We've done it. I've done it throughout the years. And some people are really successful at hiring their family, right?
Yeah. Some people are, but
no, I haven't been. I've hired my brother, my brother-in-law, uncle, friends, all of them I've had to fire. Every one of them, and I have my kids working with us though.
Yeah, that's different though.
You'll see. And but you met Christopher downstairs, and my daughter. I'll introduce you to her when we leave. So the two oldest ones work here.
Oh, nice.
Pretty much full time. So you want to, I think, like integrate your kids.
Right.
Integrate them into it, because even if they don't do entrepreneurship and they don't want to start their own business, they kind of understand. Like, one is, I admire my dad for busting his butt. My mom too, but it's hard running a business, right? So it shows them like, hey, look, I'm out here, I'm getting my butt whooped. I'm doing it for you guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so get them involved, however that looks.
Yeah. I wish I took the concept that my dad and the vision he had originally, like, hey, this has been great for me and it could be great for you, but I was too stubborn and I wanted to follow my own path.
Yeah.
Now I was like, man, okay, well but then I play that game again in my head. It's like everything had to happen the way it had to happen.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, man, I wish I'd started this sooner, but hey, we're here now. We can play the what if games all day.
You wouldn't have been ready for it.
No.
Because say you're younger, say you're 23 and you start making a ton of money and you blow it all and you party and get, have 32 kids and just stupid stuff.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's now true. You're a man with responsibility, a great wife. You're ready for it. Yeah. You're ready for the responsibility.
Exactly.
God is going to give us only what we can handle.
Yep.
That's you know what I mean? And so right now you're able to handle where you're at, and he's building you up.
There you go.
And he's building you up. And then every time you build up, your level of faith builds up. Then he says, okay, son, here's a little bit more.
Yeah.
Here's a little bit more. Here's a little bit more. And then we just keep working our butts off. Right? And here's a little bit more. Here's a little bit more. Oh, here's a big bonus. Oh, boom. And we keep doing the right things, so I like it. So, like, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made so far? You've been in business a year and a half now. I'm sure you've made a ton of mistakes.
Yeah.
What are, like, let's name some of them, because there's people watching us that are maybe just starting out businesses or about to, whether it's a paint company or whatever company. Right. Like, what are some of the mistakes you've made?
Where do I start?
Yeah, no, name them.
Because I look back now and I'm like, man, I wish I had my accounting set up correctly from the beginning, Because then, we're 6 months down the line and we're trying to figure out our taxes and, you're working backwards.
Yeah.
And so if you keep that more accountable on a daily basis from the beginning and not do that shoebox accounting, hire a professional and do it that way, it's going to take a little bit of your profit. However, it's going to be worth it in the long run if you have a good accounting system, and then you present it to your tax guy and you're like, hey, listen, this is what's come in and what's come out. These are my profit and losses. Yeah. And you provide a P&L and then you're good to go. So I feel like that was one of the mistakes starting off that I didn't do right. And then also, yes, I threw it out there, social media, that's how we started.
Yeah.
But I wasn't holding myself accountable with social media. There was days where I was not putting in the work. We were doing these beautiful projects and not, documenting them.
So no pictures, no videos, no nothing.
No videos, there were some projects I wouldn't do it. And then, I went to a conference where a bunch of entrepreneurs and they were talking about branding again.
Yeah.
Marketing and saying, hey, these are the amount of posts you got to do on a daily basis to feed the algorithm so that you can get more traction on your social media presence, and more traction in social media presence results in more business. So wouldn't you like to get more business for free?
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things. And then as a police officer, I was very reserved. So I didn't want to really, I had a fake name on my profile. I didn't want anybody like to look up my family or anything like that, because it is scary. You know, some people, believe it or not, people out there, there's bad people who want to kill cops.
Yeah.
They want to kill them. They get ranks in their mafias, and wherever they're at, they get ranks for killing a cop.
Yeah, it's true.
So
well, I don't know if it's true, but I think it's true.
No, it's true. One of my friends, actually, he was a detention officer, and he was killed by a gang, well-known gang, and that was why he killed him, is because he was a cop, and you know
that was part of
it was part of his initiation to rank up.
Yeah.
So that was an unfortunate event. But what I was saying, to keep on track, is now I changed my name to Larry the Painter, branded myself, right?
Yeah.
After that, and one of the things is just like, do not basically, you're doing a disservice to yourself if you're not marketing yourself. Especially when it's free on social media. Mm-hmm. And so I did see those things, is when I was lacking on that, Chris, it affected me like 2 months later down the line, where I was like, hey, where's all the referrals from social media? They're not really there. Oh, well, you were being lazy, call yourself out, is like, you being lazy, you too busy to do a post.
Yeah.
So for all those new entrepreneurs out there, I know that when I don't post on social media, it's going to affect me later. So I get paranoid, and I'll make sure, if I'm not at a job site, I have one of my guys send me a video or picture or something like that. It's like, it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Because we need to post content out there, because it builds credibility also amongst your clients. It's like, hey, listen, when I go bid a job, I'm like, check out our Instagram. This is what we do. Mm-hmm. These are the results. These are some testimonials, and it makes people feel comfortable with going with your services instead than another guy. So those are two mistakes that I can think off the bat right now. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I made some other, and like I mentioned, some family members, hiring them. My tios, no, I love them to death. They're great. I wish we could all be one big painting company, but they're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. Yeah. And
you gotta do your own thing.
We all help each other out. Yeah. And then actually, like, we all help each other out. My dad, my tios, myself. So it's great.
Yeah. So you ever make a mistake like estimating a project?
Yeah, I made some mistakes. Yeah, we're back in 2023. In the beginning, work was really slow.
You talk like that's far away.
No, back in 2023, like last year. Yeah,
17 days ago.
Yeah, 17 days. Yeah, it was. But yeah, in January, work was slow, and we decided to take on a job for a very like low amount, and it's just because we need to work for the guys, and I went and worked 3 days with them, and I only made $100. Mm-hmm. So I made some mistakes like that and underbidding, but I've learned along the way to stay consistent, because it's only fair for all your other customers who are paying the price that the full price. So me going down on my prices is doing a disservice for those other clients. So we stay pretty consistent with that. With pricing, unless you're military, law enforcement, we do provide some discounts.
That's cool. So you guys provide discounts to military and law enforcement,
nurses, also any teachers out there who need a discount. Also, I know.
What kind of teachers, bro? Some aren't that good.
Elementary school teachers, high school teachers.
Some real teachers that really want to teach.
I don't know. They tell me they're a teacher, and they get a little bit of discount, so that way they, it's hard. They're having to put up with people's kids, different backgrounds, and
pay for all their supplies,
and get paid maybe $1 a day. I know they don't make that much money. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. The system's kind of messed up. So, like, how do you, and with your business today, how are you interjecting your faith, into the business? Into your lifestyle, tell me how that looks.
Yeah, I think when you're an entrepreneur, like what I've learned and being with other entrepreneurs is that, you might look at the schedule ahead and, and say like, man, where's the work at?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get a phone call right when you're thinking that. And it's just like a big thing like, wow, God, you're amazing. Thank you for that phone call, gave me. And then I go out and bid the job, and those jobs are usually the ones I get.
Yeah.
it's like, I'm sending you someone that needs services. You're going to go bid it and you're going to get the job. And so that's where I integrate my faith, is just like going out there telling people, hey, listen, I talk about myself, my crew, and what we're going to deliver, you know, should they choose us as their painting contractor.
Yeah.
And so having that established and that faith and saying, you know what, I might not see what's happening, you know, next month, but I know God has us, because it's not just me. I have employees who count on that, you know.
You're steward.
And so it's really cool and impressive to see, like, man, when you think you're going down, he lifts you up, and then all of a sudden you got this multi-million-dollar home that you're going to be painting, and it's the right job. I didn't get the $4,000 gig over here, but I got the $40,000 job over here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I know these are small numbers in comparison to scale.
No,
You got
these are
going
really
on.
good numbers, bro. That's amazing.
You know, so but that's crazy. It's just like, you never know. It's just living by faith is an amazing thing, because then you know that you're trusting God in the process, and you're gonna end up getting results.
Yeah, faith is like a muscle, bro. We exercise it and it grows.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I have stories too. You know, I remember us starting out, man. We started in 2009, and for I'd say 3 or 4 years, we were broke. It was hard, you know, and we always gave our tithes. We always helped people.
Right.
There's a lot of things we always did, no matter what. And so we would challenge ourselves in the tithe, and we would give based on what we wanted to receive. It was like a negotiating with God.
Right.
Hey, God, okay, God, you know, God gives it. You may have heard me say this on the podcast. I don't know if you listened to it before.
You know, I have listened to your podcast. Yeah.
Have you heard me talk about this one, the tithe one?
No, not that
So
one.
yeah, so the way we tithe, people try to check me on whether they'll listen to it, but the way we tithe, you can do whatever you want. Is we'll say so God says, hey, give me 10%, right? You get to keep the 90, right? God doesn't determine what the 10% is or the 90. All he says is just give me 10, and you keep 90. That's it. You give me 10, I'm gonna make sure you have the 90, right? And so what we do is, my wife and myself, we learned this from some really wealthy people, a lot of wealthy people that do this. You'd have to know, right? And so we'd say, okay, God, like, this is the year. All right, I was giving you $100 a week, whatever, and now, but and you said I could keep the 900. Well, God, I want 1,800, and God's like, okay, well, you know what to do. Give me 200. You see what I'm saying? And so we got to challenge. That's challenging our level of faith.
Yeah.
Right? Because God said he's going to do these things. He didn't say what you need to do and you better do this. And I told you if you give me 10 and you know, he's just, there's these numbers. There's these principles. They're principles. They work. They're laws, right?
Yeah.
And they work. And so we have to exercise those. You know what I mean? And so we would go through, and man, we would go and we would have, you know, payroll, you know, this is years ago, and we would be broke, dude, like no money. And payroll, you know, the guys got to come on Friday. Back then we would just do checks, and it's like 2:30, and we would push the guys out all the time. It was like come at 4 or something, like the end of the day. You know what I mean? Because we knew, and it never failed. And I would have like nothing in the account, and then we would get a phone call like 2:30. Hey, we got the check. Come get it. I'd be driving to Chandler. My wife would be driving to Mesa or something. And when we get the check, hurry up and deposit it. Boom, boom, boom. And we make payroll. And it was awesome. God was always faithful when we needed it. You know what I mean? God is always faithful if we believe in it, right? And so he's going to always be faithful for you. I know it.
Amen. Thank you.
You know, and it's what you're saying is you're seeing it. You know what I mean?
You're a living testimony every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you say that the blessings are new every morning, right? So as long as we know that, you know, the next day is going to be better, and that's living by faith too, is knowing like, hey, you know what? We had a bad day, but define a bad day, right? And so, you know, but I know that God's going to bless me in a different way tomorrow for his testimony. So that's always important.
Yeah, he likes to be bragged on. You know what I mean? And so that's our job, to show, hey, this is what's happening in our lives. You know what? I'm not bragging, and then God's going to do these things in your life, and it's going to be like from, hey, man, Chris, guess what? Man, like 4 years ago, I was painting $1 million house. And guess what? I'm moving into one.
Oh, man, that'd be amazing.
You know what I mean? And that's what God does.
Yeah.
Right? And so I love it. So I think I don't know if you said this. Did you talk about don't be a tradesman?
Yes.
So there's a story. So tell me your analogy of that, and I'll tell you a story that I have that's exactly to that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I just typed it on my phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't get that from anywhere. So if it came from somewhere, maybe I read it in a book. Maybe I saw it on a TikTok. I don't know.
So tell me what you were writing.
So yeah, don't be a tradesman. Be a salesman.
Yeah.
Sell yourself. Sell your company.
Yeah.
You know, and like I told you, those are some non-negotiables for me when I go to a job site. I'm not just going to go. And that's one of the mistakes actually I made in the beginning is, all right, I bid the project. Here's a price. This is how many days it's going to take. And that was a disservice to myself because then I wouldn't hear anything from the client.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a number, you know.
Yep.
So what separates you from the other companies, right?
Yeah.
So you can't be a tradesman and run your own business at the same time.
Nope.
I learned that the hard way because I can't go bid a job if I can't make it to those appointments, right? So that's why you got to set up a good team so that way you can go out there and do those bids, make those contacts, be on crazy good podcasts like this one, you know, establishing like good business relationships and stuff like that is very important for a company and a business owner. So me being behind a tool I'm doing a disservice to myself,
To your whole team,
my company, my schedule for the next few months, you know. So I've established that with the guys, you know, because there's a bunch of guys that are painting contractors or not painting contractors, they're painters. They're like, oh man, I'm making that guy rich, or they might have some misconceptions. But what I've established with my team is, listen, guys, I appreciate what you guys are doing because you guys are allowing me to hunt for the next job, so you guys can have a new address to go next week and go get a job.
Yeah,
you know, come get some income for your family. So they understand that, and I appreciate my guys. So now I've transitioned from being a tradesman, being behind the tools, and more focused on, you know, getting those jobs done, doing my own. Obviously right now we're too small and too new to have a full-time assistant or, you know, have someone that does the administrative stuff for the company, but I can focus on those things for now, you know, sending out thank you cards to my clients, doing the little things, you know, that matter in the long run. So yeah, being a tradesman is doing a disservice to yourself. You're a salesman. So that's what I heard that somewhere is like, you can't be owning your own. You can't own your job. You got to own your business.
So who are you listening to? Like YouTube?
Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, all those guys are. I like to look at those podcasts and also listen to those. So these are businessmen that have figured out, you know, hey, listen, this is how you got to do it. And they coach. So they coach a lot of other trades like ours, you know. Yep. And so they've unlocked something magical, is that they know business, and you can't be an owner operator all the time, you know. It's
very tough. I mean, you can, like, you and I mean, like, I'm still kind of an owner operator. Like, I still got this small mindset.
Right.
I'm working on it, you know, even though we're bigger. But
like, do you go and like actually be on the tools?
No.
See, that's what I'm saying.
But it's no different though, because I'll go and estimate jobs at my computer. So it's still I'm still kind of limiting myself. Yeah. I'm working on that.
Right. And see, I'm not there yet where that you see that estimating as I'm still operating the business.
Yeah, I'm limiting myself.
Yeah, because you're doing a lot of stuff, right? But me, as small as I am right now, I'm doing the estimating, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have an estimator to do that. So for me, that to me is more important for me to go estimate the jobs.
It's very important.
And so I have my trade workers doing, you know, all the physical labor. And so that's the part where I'm trying to get out of, because there's some days where I'll throw in my dirty paint shirt, you know, or whatever. Not dirty, but everybody knows I like to be clean. But I'll throw in, you know,
your whites.
I'll throw in whites. I'll throw in a spray suit, you know, and I'll go paint some cabinets, you know.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing it, Chris.
Yeah.
I do. I really enjoy painting. That's like my passion. But I know that when I'm doing that, I'm doing disservice to my company.
Yeah, because you're not getting more jobs.
And so, I look at my company as a relationship with myself. You know, it's my company, but I see it as an entity, right? And so I see me and I see my company. What am I doing for my company, right? That's my baby. I got to make sure I take care of it by doing these other tasks that are more important to keep it a company.
Yep.
Because if I just do the work, I might not have work for the guys or for myself. for a couple months. So that's the thing that I've been battling through the whole first year as a new business owner in a trade.
I think you're heading on the right track. So I've told this story before, and man, it's had to be, so we've been in business like I think around 15 years, almost 15 years or 15 years, something like that. And so I'd say probably 12 years ago, we wanted to go and you got to have your insurance and stuff. So we went to a big insurance firm that did construction only. They were the biggest here, the biggest, the best. And I was like, oh, I want to go with those guys, right? And then so I remember, and I've told this story lots of times, but it's so impactful because it's to what you're saying. And, back then, the social media wasn't even exist. I think they had MySpace, but it was not even like this, what it is today. YouTube was just starting, Google was just starting, stuff like that, just ramping up. And so anyways, so he goes, Chris, I can't give you a policy, you're small, this and that. And he goes, but, let me give you some advice. And the piece of advice, the biggest piece of advice he told me was, he goes, Chris, do you want to be a drywall installer, or do you want to be in the business of selling drywall projects? And that's what you're saying. And I'm like, it was like, that was the eye opener. Like, phew. So maybe I was in business 2 years then, or maybe even less, because I remember as soon as he said that, I said, I'm done. I literally put my bags away, sold them at a yard sale, and that was it. And probably since then, I've probably put my bags on 3 times. There was like a week one time when I didn't have no one, and I hadn't framed for like 10 years or something. No, like maybe 5.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, a long time. And we needed a foreman, and we're just jammed up, and one foreman got really sick. And so I went out to the job site, put my bags on, hadn't physically worked in like 5 years or something, it was really hard. But
I bet your back hurt a lot the next day.
But I had to do it, right? But I didn't really have to do it, but I was like, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, putting getting into the business side of it was the best thing I ever did. It was the absolute best thing I ever did, because now I can manage, and that's what I was good at anyways, was managing. And that's the key of business, is managing. Doing the work is the easy part. Technically anybody can paint or do drywall or brick or concrete or build tables or whatever. Not anybody, but technically anybody can. Right. But not anybody can just go manage a bunch of people, processes, deal with customers,
right?
Do marketing, branding, sales calls or sales leads, however that looks. So that's cool that you've got that now early on, because I know a lot of people that are in business, been in business 5, 10, 15 years, and it's like mom and pop mentality.
Right.
And they're still installers.
Yeah, and
or applicators or whatever.
And someone asked me before on a different podcast, hey, listen, where are you taking the company in relation to what your dad's done? And, my dad's very comfortable with what he has, 2-3 guys on his crew, and, they have work maybe sometimes, or maybe they're booked the whole year. But I want to take it to have multiple crews, build an empire, and really fine tune this and get the DB certifications, tap into different fields, like not just retail, but commercial, those are the things I'm envisioning for the company right now. I know I got to check myself. Hey, I'm brand new. I'm still learning. I don't know the key to everything. And I appreciate you pointing out, hey, you're learning that early on. Well, the thing I've done is that now this is my bread and butter. I don't have a paycheck every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
that I got to count on. I still have. I'm going to keep this mentality until the day I can't work anymore. Run a company. Is I don't rely on anybody right now. To give me a paycheck. I don't know when my next lead's going to come. I know God knows, but I don't. So for me is I got to make sure that I put all my time, my energy, my focus, and dedicate it to my company so that it can scale it to the next level. So that's where I want to be. And by doing that, I'm doing research, man. I'm listening to the podcast, listening to these mentors, these millionaires that know what, has what it's taken to them get where they're at now. So that's one of the things is just like, I don't know everything. I don't. I'm still learning. I know there's we met and we might establish a relationship. We might not. I might learn a lot from you, the do's and don'ts, you know, and I feel like people are placed in your way for a purpose and a reason, you know, and I'm very appreciative, and I got to be open. My heart has to be open for those things. And for me, it's like, hey, I'm vulnerable. Yes. To a certain extent, but I got to understand, like, a lot of people can feed me as well, you know, not just me feed them.
Yeah.
So, I have that concept in my mind. I want to grow. I want to learn what a businessman is, open up a couple other LLCs, not just this one, you know, but right now I'm in my lane. I'm doing painting residential repaints right now for the time being. It's very good. I want to fine tune it, grow it as much as I can, and then look into the other areas. You know, I looked at my vision board for last year, and I accomplished all the goals on there.
That's cool.
And then some.
So cool.
I wanted to have a little spray rig that I put on there. I was like, that's funny. I'm like, God's good. He gave me 2 big spray rigs, you know, and a new company truck, you know, and, you know, at the end of the year, we ended up buying a Tesla, my wife and I.
Nice.
So, you know, God's good.
Which Tesla did you buy?
The Model Y. They didn't have an X available. I really wanted an X.
Well, I mean, it's like $30,000 difference.
So it was like $50,000. Yeah. So, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. Yeah. Right. So we need
the Y's cool, dude.
Yeah. That's the wife's car, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, we're on the right track. We're on the right track, and it's not all about like the money or anything like that. It's more of, you know, like we have this project in life that I'm working on. This is my thing. This is my empire. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. You know, there's tough moments. You know, anybody starting new, there's tough moments out there. You're going to hit the wall and you're like, man, I don't have anybody. This guy's sick. And like but I love a good challenge. I was a cop. I used to have to go figure out things, you know, and figure out a solution. So every day's a solution I have to resolve. And whether it's estimating, whether it's the crew not getting along or them, you know, trying to figure out the project, you know, it's just working through those things. But it's fun to me because it's like, hey, I get to do this, and, you know, I get to figure out a new thing. I learn something new. I love learning new things. So, you know, anybody trying to start out, just get out of your own head. Try to learn
and
from
just
others.
Do it, huh?
And just do it.
Yeah.
And then whatever you're speaking, do it. Yeah. You know, because you're not going to establish anything with just speaking about it. You got to do it, be about it. And I feel like we're implementing. There's some things that I'm going to be implementing this year that I know I'm going to grow as a man, you know, as a husband, you know, and fix this, you know, as best as I can. So that can correlate to everything. Whatever needs fixing, you know, we're always going to improve ourselves. We're not perfect. We're the imperfect human, right?
Yeah.
So there's always ways how to grow and get better, you know. Yes, I have a religious background. You know, am I, you know, 100% dedicated to a church right now? No. Yeah. You know, those are things that I got to fine tune, right? Because God is always providing. Why am I going to stay the same way as last year? I always got it. Let's skip that.
You got to keep growing.
Keep growing. So I'm sorry. I know I'm a little long-winded.
No. This is good. You know, like,
but these are the honest, raw things and facts about me as a person. And I want to make sure that, you know, if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast, you know, always analyze yourself. Yeah. You know, check yourself and say, hey, these are the things that you need to improve on. How are you going to resolve it? You know, we do it for work, right? We do it every day. We do it for other people, right? But why don't we do it for ourselves? Yeah. And that's what's very important. You have to be good for others and, you know, for yourself primarily, right? Yeah. And then that's going to just flow out to everybody and you're going to be a happy person. Yeah. No, I'm glad. Like, we have to challenge ourselves. You know, I think so many people you get stuck in, whether even entrepreneurs or in a job or whatever it is, you do get stuck in this, like, what they call the rat race. You're in a wheel and it becomes monotonous, right? And you're doing the same thing and nothing else happens because you're only focused on the same thing. You get stuck in it, right? And so that's why we have to keep challenging ourselves. That's why we got to listen to podcasts and even do podcasts or go on podcast or read books or listen to audiobooks. We have to keep growing because it's if we ain't growing and getting better at what we're doing, then someone's going to pass us up. Eventually, you're going to get passed up anyways. There's always someone bigger, faster, whatever. Oh, yeah. But we need to be the best version of ourselves, right? At every step. And you need to think of, like, and everyone listening think legacy, right? What's my legacy? Is this for my children's children?
what am I leaving behind? What purpose do I want to do this for? You know, one of the things I'm gonna start doing this year is we created a nonprofit, and so all the structure's done. We were able to get a family some beds just recently, and I can go and buy everything, right? But I'm trying to partner with businesses and everything, and we're gonna actually create a DBA for the nonprofit, and that way we can give like cars or beds or like big things. Like a family just moved into an apartment and they had nothing, you know, maybe, you know, they were like in a halfway house or something, whatever, however that looks, you know, and they needed furniture. You know, we want to be able to do that.
That's so cool, man.
You know, so that's what the next step is. Like, as you're growing and you start making money, it's like, what do we need to do?
Right.
How can we be a difference, and how can we be the change others are looking for? You know what I mean?
That's so cool.
So that's the stuff keeping your mind is as you challenge yourself and you grow and say, okay, well, how can I give back more?
Right.
You know, there's only so much we can do, you can do, or I can do, but there's things we can do, and think legacy for your children. Mm-hmm. You know, we can, I can show you how to open up a trust, do a living trust, set up these boundaries. You know, that way it's like, because you are going to make money, right? You're already moving in that direction. And now it's, okay, how can I protect myself? How can I protect my children? And how can we do things together? And I can show them, like, we're living better lives, but let's teach other people how to live better lives.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So I like it. You know, I think you're doing great things. You know, I'm glad you came on the show. You know, I think we can do stuff together if you want. I can help you for sure. Like, some people I can't help them in their industry. I can just help them like business advice. Mm-hmm. I can totally help you in your industry.
I appreciate it.
Because, you know, we do it.
Yeah.
You know, just don't compete against me. No, just kidding.
No,
just joking.
Never.
I don't even care. It'll be good. I like competition.
Hey, there's plenty of work for everybody out there in the valley.
So. Hey, competition drives you.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, if you're not letting your competition drive, you know, we have to, you got to get fuel for something. Mm-hmm. And something's got to fuel you. And sometimes it's the competition. Sometimes it's your past. Yep. Right? You know what I mean? So find some competition, something to fuel you. And I just appreciate it. You know, so thank you for coming on the show. For everyone watching, follow Larry Chavez. What's your Instagram?
So my Instagram handle is Chavez Painting AZ.
Yeah. Where else are you at?
So we're on there, and TikTok and Facebook as well.
So if you need your house painted, right?
Yep.
Interior, exterior too.
Interior, exterior.
He's got the paint rig down, right? And he's got the uncles to back him.
Yeah. No, I have my full crew, so we're good. But yeah, we do interior, exterior. We do some cabinet refurbishing as well. Nice. So if you're looking to do that, definitely hit us up, and we'll be able to help. We'll go do an estimate. You go on our website, chavezpaintingaz.com. You can book a consultation, find a schedule that works for you. As long as it's available, you pick the time and the date, and I'll be there to estimate your job.
Yeah.
And also, if you're my customer, you get a nice, cool little mug at the end.
Nice.
And Chris, I want to gift this to you.
Oh man, thank you.
Make sure that you have it. I know you have your own painting business, and I got new business cards this year. So
nice.
You're the first one to receive a business card. So my business cards do have a QR code. It leads you to our Instagram. So if you ever want to sub some work to a client or something that, hey, I'm too busy, you know, have them scan that, and we'll go out there and book their consultation and bid their job. But thank you for having me here, Chris. For me, it's an honor. And seeing this establishment that you have here, man, it's amazing. Like I was telling you earlier, like seeing like maybe the 10-year goal or whatever it might be. You never know. God's so good. It can be a 5-year goal, right?
Yep.
And see a whole system and operation, you know, it's just amazing to see that I can have the same vision and, you know, like, all right, I need to get on Chris's level, you know? And so it's really cool. Me living law enforcement was the best thing that could have happened to me. And what am I chasing now? I'm chasing that work-life balance where I could be there more for my family and, you know, grow as a person as well now. And I get to do that. I think I have a great crew. I have established something that I know is only going to get better and bigger. And I appreciate the new friendship. And
absolutely.
I look forward to 2024. We'll make some deals and grow as a company.
There it is. Larry Chavez. Thank you out there. Keep following us, like us, subscribe, and follow this guy. Mention the podcast when you want your house painted. He's going to give you a discount.
Yes.
Be blessed.